Good evening. I'm just doing some invites. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Invite. Sorry, it's taking a little longer to do this. Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. It's funny, sometimes you're friends with people, but you don't really want them to come to your live, but you still do anyway. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday to everybody. How you doing? Hello, Abu. Good to see you. Yeah, these live. It's if you know who a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk is, he's like a big social media guy. He said TikTok Live is like the best thing going right now in terms of the internet. It's pretty big words from a guy like Gary. He's a strange guy, I tell you that. All these multimillionaires are strange people. Hi, Sheila. How you doing? Had a nice talk with Sheila today. We talked for about an hour and 15 minutes, if you can believe it. I was walking Ruby through the woods. We had a good old talk. Yep, Gary V, you got it right. He's a social media expert. I guess he's got like a media company. I don't know. He's a pretty confident guy, I guess, but he seems like a very smart guy in terms of business and stuff like that. Well, thank you. Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate it. We have a very interesting night tonight. This is going to be totally different than anything we've ever done before. I mean, I'm trying to mix it up a little bit to keep things interesting. You know, it's like a marriage. You got to keep it going some way, somehow. But yeah, and I'm going to ask the audience for permission too, because I don't want to do something that people don't want to listen to. But I think this is fascinating in terms of the topic. And it's something we need to be thinking about. We really need to be thinking about it because it could happen. And if we're not ready, it's going to be a true, SHIT show. Like what? I have to go run errands? Well, this is going to be recorded. So it'll be up on my YouTube and my Rumble channel by tonight. So you can check it out later if you want to. We're going to be talking about what would the aftermath look like of an electromagnetic pulse weapon look like. And we'll see. We shall see. But we're going to watch a video. There's a guy named Sean Ryan who had a guest on his podcast. I thought it was a good conversation. Somebody wrote a book about it. And the author of this book, who had analyzed it for years, gave an interview to Sean Ryan. So we're going to look at that, and then we're going to talk about it. It's not too long. There were a ton of different videos. I had to pick this one out because it was like 9 minutes or something. There were a lot that were like 30 minutes to an hour, which is just too much for a live. Is that just possible, or is it? No, it's definitely possible. I mean, it could happen. Forget about an enemy. It could happen from just the sun. We could have just a sunburst, whatever they call it, solar flare, whatever they call it, and that can totally screw up the grid. Or it can be hacked. The grid could be hacked, and it may not be nationwide, but obviously if there's an EMP weapon deployed, and these things are ready to go, by the way. In fact, I would think the Iranians, instead of trying to fight us on a military level, just take our electrical grid out. I'm sure the U.S. has them too, but you'll see it's not pretty, or it could get pretty ugly. So we'll see how that goes. But I also wanted to see, before I do that, I just finished a quick dinner. That's why I was a little late getting started. Yeah, coronal mass ejection. That's the name of that could do it. Yeah, the sun's really powerful, by the way. No shit, Sherlock. But yeah, it's an amazingly powerful thing. And I don't know. If you ever think about outer space, outer space is. The whole universe is just absolutely amazing. It really just twists my brain. And I think about this solar system alone. It's such a cool thing. We got this like sun that burns, and it gives us. We're just the right distance, which is crazy. We could have been a lot closer. I mean, we're fried, or we could be a lot further. I mean, it's cold. We're just the right distance to have. And even then, it seems cold as hell sometimes, right? Or even hot as hell. Pretty amazing, though, that it's like got this little band for life. Yeah, it's a mind twist. And then, you have the galaxy, which is, we're just a little, our solar system is just this little speck in this massive galaxy called the Milky Way. And then you have these absolutely ridiculous. By the way, there's a video. I'm going to show this one too tonight because we're talking about this. You're going to love this video. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever seen in my life. I watch it all the time because I love it that much. But it really lays out just how vast the universe is. It is off the chain. And by the way, please do me a favor. I know this is a pain in the ass. Please tap my face, because we want to get some more people in to watch this. This is going to be a cool night. We're going to do a couple different things that are really interesting and different. I mean, yeah, Brenda, people are talking about the fact that there are also extraterrestrials here, different types of propulsion systems we're hearing a lot more about it lately. I don't know. There must be something to it, because otherwise we wouldn't hear it. Yeah, but do me a favor. Please tap on please tap on my face to get the likes going. And also, if you don't mind, if you hold down your screen for like a half a second, all of your friends pop up and you can invite people. My my reach is being vastly limited. And also, a lot of people who used to come have stopped coming for obvious reasons we talked about. Thank you, I Am Truth Seeker, for sharing the live. Yeah, if you don't mind sharing the live, please do. It really helps a lot, because the button that pulses to get people mine doesn't do that for most people now. So most people don't even know. If it weren't for my schedule, most people wouldn't even see me going live. So thanks for sharing it. But I was hoping to get a couple hundred people in here to watch this video. I think you're going to love this video. It is really, really. And by the way, when you see this person's channel, I mean, if you think I'm even half decent at geopolitics, this person blows me away. This guy's amazing. So, I like sharing other people's work as best I can. Listen, I'll tell you this. I always tell you this. I don't know anything. I just watch other people's work, and then I just repackage it and share it back. So I'm going to start doing more of that, because, I've talked about a lot of things that I know, and I don't want to keep repeating myself. I mean, I know it's interesting to talk about some of the political stuff, but I've probably said it 30 times by now. So I don't want to keep saying. I don't remember the name of the site, but when we pull the video up, you'll see it. It's an amazing channel. I mean, I love it. It's for geopolitics. It's by far my favorite channel. And the way the guy does his videos, it's amazing. I mean, if I could be half as good as this guy, I'd be totally psyched. I'm still such a rookie when it comes to this stuff. I don't have the patience to go through the tutorials, quite frankly. I'm just lazy. But how nice the videos are with graphics and images and maps and all this other stuff. And the way they paste the video, it's all this video editing skill that people have. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. And we're gonna watch. It's like going to school. We're gonna watch one video about the universe. We can talk about that for a little bit, which it's just an absurdly big play. And that's just all we can see. Wait till you see this video is gonna blow your mind. And then we're gonna talk about an EMP, which is bringing things right back to home and what that can mean for all of us. And I think who knows if any of these things, nuclear war, EMP, who knows? Hopefully it doesn't happen, right? I mean, fingers crossed we never have to deal with this stuff. But it's good to know what's going on. You'll be one of the few people who's at least knows what's up, because if it does happen, you'll know what you have to do. And I was talking to Sheila about this today. We're all in these built up areas, and we're so incredibly dependent upon the supply chain, which is like 2 or 3 days worth of supplies. And if it were to stop, I mean, just the consequences are just unthinkable. So I think it'll be interesting to go through the mental, and it's scary, but it's good to go through the exercise. And then I want to tell you something I was talking to Sheila about, but I probably can't because I'll get in trouble. But, as we've watched these, bombs rain down on Gaza, these poor people that are being, funneled into the lower portion of Gaza to the south, something just, it keeps going through my head. And I don't mean to be mean about stuff, because I'm not a mean person, but just, it makes you so angry what the government's choosing to do to these poor people. And, a weird part of me, not that I want to see anybody get hurt, but a weird part of me wants to see Hezbollah get involved. And I think hopefully somebody has the courage to step in. If they keep doing this crap, if they go in, guns a-blazing and bombs a-dropping, hopefully somebody does something, because it's absolutely unacceptable what they're doing, in my opinion. So I wouldn't feel sorry I'd feel badly for the civilians that don't support this. I would feel sorry for them. but every civilian that is, by the way, this is a crazy stat. I don't know if this is exactly right. It's something maybe more, something like 80 or 85%, maybe as high as 90% of Israeli citizens think the government is not doing enough in Gaza. Can you imagine? They think they should be doing more. So anybody who would say something like that, my opinion about them is, hey, if something came raining down on your hometown, like something's been raining down on these people, I'd have a hard time feeling a lot of sympathy is my point. But I don't wish harm. I'd like to see this all stop for everybody, right? Somebody's saying that Al Nasser Hospital is being, I guess bombed right now or something. Yeah, the thing is, it's all the same stuff. It's snipers, one by one, two by two, buildings coming down. It's all the same stuff. And yeah, the other thing, most people know this, but if you don't, in Israel, even though they say they don't do this, their whole story from birth is that we're this little teeny little place around all these bad people, and all they want to do is get us, and so we have to stay strong, and which is a complete bunch of shit. But they indoctrinate their kids to believe that they're the victim and that they're the good people and that everybody else just wants to hurt them, and so therefore they have to do whatever they have to do for their own security. Meanwhile, they're sending soldiers into the West Bank and just periodically going into Gaza and bombing and taking the military in and using super advanced military equipment, tanks, artillery, all the same stuff that the H group or whomever doesn't have. And they just run roughshod through the place. They just bomb, artillery, tank shells, snipers, and they just do whatever the hell they want. And then they pull out and they just do it again periodically, whatever the hell they want. And they blame it on the rocket fire. Oh, these people are sending rockets. Now, listen, I wouldn't want to live in a place where rockets are coming down. I mean, that's obviously got to suck. But of all the thousands and thousands and thousands of rockets, it's somewhere between 6 and 10 people have been unalived. That's it. And then that sucks for 6 to 10 people, whatever. I mean, any loss of civilian life sucks. And I know living under the threat of that, having to go to bomb I mean, it's a pain in the ass, right? But why? Why do they do it? That's the question you have to ask. Why the hell do they keep doing that? And there's a reason. It's called occupation and blockade, right? So listen, if I guarantee if I lived in Gaza, which I don't, thank God, because it's got to be a tough life. But if I did, I'd probably fight back. I'd probably be a part of whatever the resistance group is. I don't want to stand there and just take it. So I don't know. Who knows? But listen, and fair is fair too. I mean, I'm critical of the H group insofar as how they run their internal government. Not that it's for me to say how they do things, but in terms of I'm used to living in a Western country with the style of life that I'm used to, the freedoms, and I'm not a religious guy. I don't think I'd like being under someone else's strict orthodoxy, with whatever comes with that. But if that's how they want to live, that's their choice, right? And I don't know exactly how much it is voluntarily submitting to the way things go versus those who are mistreated when they don't behave. I don't know. I don't know enough details about that, but it's a different culture. Different cultures are different cultures, right? I think Islam, it seems like, and I'm not an expert, is more submissive in terms of your showing deference to something bigger than yourself. So you're willing to submit to certain rules and modesty and stuff like that. That's my guess. I know it's got to pain people. I mean, I know there was a story about a young woman who was in a bikini in an Islamic country, and she got arrested for disrobing in public, which is understandable. Somebody's saying Trump ? I don't know if you mean, is Trump going to be the president? Is that Julie N. Pantano? Sorry if I didn't say your name wrong. Yeah, and listen, I'm not for theocracy. I don't know about you. I wouldn't want to live in a theocracy, and I'm sure a lot of people in Iran don't like living in a theocracy. So I get it. Every country has pros and cons, right? Some things about the Iranian way I like in terms of the way they stand up to the West, but other things I wouldn't want to live there and have to be subject to that stuff. But there are a lot of people from Iran. I've met some people from Iran that were amazing people. Smart. There's a guy I used to do, I had a business that did cabling and wiring. And this guy, he was amazing. He was a great engineer. Somebody says, thoughts on RFK Jr., does he have a chance? No. Unfortunately, no. No third-party candidate has a chance in this system. I guess anything's possible, right? I shouldn't say no, but I'd say it's highly unlikely, and it would be historically anomalous for him to get even close to, even if he gets 25% of the total vote, it would be a miracle. The problem is that the two-party system gets all the money, and money is necessary to run these big campaigns. And it's what it is. I think a lot of people are disappointed right now because you have the choices you feel like you have. It's like, are you kidding me? We have a senile, guy that looks like he's about to go on his last leg, Biden, who's an avowed Zionist. You have Trump, who is obviously even worse because he put the capital in Jerusalem, which nobody wanted. And then you have Kennedy, who's I think worse than both of them put together in terms of Israel. So about this issue, there's no good way out on this one. And then you take the U.S. Congress, which seems to fall in lockstep with anything Israel wants. It's just like absurd. This bill, they're voting on this new bill for, I think it's like $17 billion for Israel. It's insane, man. I just think we're living in crazy times. What do you mean nobody wanted? We all wanted it. I'm not sure what you mean, TikTok guy, about nobody wanted. We all wanted it. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about the bill? The bill only passed in the Senate. It's not passed in the House yet. Of course, it's going to go through what's called reconciliation. Any changes the House makes. Yeah, TikTok guy. I don't know what you mean by everybody wanted it. Are you talking about the money for Israel? I think that's absolutely incorrect. There are a lot of Americans who are completely opposed to. Well, it's not just Israel. It's Ukraine. It's the whole thing, right? It's not to sell out Israel. It's that they're just tired of money being spent on foreign wars, right? I think that's a fair point to make. We have people in Hawaii who can't rebuild their homes. We have people here, we have terrible drug problems. We have infrastructure falling apart. People with massive student debts. People are having a hard time paying their bills. I just went grocery shopping tonight. I was like, holy smokes, man. I couldn't believe it. It's just, it's out of control. And the cost of living in the United States is so bad right now. And you can go live almost anywhere else in the world and live, on maybe like half the money we spend here, you can live a great life. And some places you go, you can spend like 30% of what we pay here and have a great life. It's over the top. Yeah, well, no, that's what I said. The House is trying to break the bill up into two parts, and they're trying to get a border bill to sort of counteract it. But anyway, we'll see. Yeah, somebody says they can live on $20 a month in rural Colombia. Yeah, that's incredible, right? I mean, I thought about going down to Medellin. That's a place that I want to visit. A friend of mine has a house down there. He wants to rent a room out to me. So I'm thinking about that. It's a beautiful place. Different culture, much more conservative in terms of like Catholicism and stuff like that. But yeah, somebody says Israel controls America and Russia. I don't agree with that. I agree they control America, or they have a huge influence over American policy and American commerce and wealth and power. I don't believe they control Russia. But could be wrong. I don't know. Stranger things have happened. Somebody says try it. I'm not sure what you mean, Winter Witch. Anyway, yeah, I don't think Russia's controlled by Zionism. I mean, I guess, Putin was involved in the World Economic Forum, so I'm not sure exactly where that all fits in, but who knows? I don't know about all that stuff. I hear a lot of conspiracies about that. Can I talk about Cuba and America's bilateral relationship? Not right now, Brian. Maybe we can have that as another focus. Oh, I wanted to give people a heads up. Just a couple things. Okay, now we have a sort of guess here. So just schedule-wise, I'm going to be changing my schedule. For those of you who know, I've been doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. like tonight. And then Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 12 noon to 2 p.m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing other lives, but I'm not going to do them on TikTok. I'm going to do one on Wednesday here and one on Saturday. So that'll give some people who don't want to stay up late in other places to watch. That's going to be my TikTok schedule. I'm going to repost the banner. Can I do it after 5:30 p.m. on Saturdays, Brian? Is that what you mean? No. The reason I keep that schedule is people in the Middle East have told me that's when they want me to do it. So I have a lot of followers in the Middle East. So I think it's better that I do it then. But it's all recorded, Brian. So, I mean, if you want to check out, I don't know if you want to come on as a guest, but if you want to just check it out, you can watch the recordings. So I am doing it after 5:30 p.m. The one on Wednesday night is going to be 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And The one on the weekends is going to be Saturdays at 12 noon. And the reason I have to do that is, and I know this may sound sad, I got to make some money. I got to start doing some work that pays. This doesn't pay. And while I appreciate anybody who's subscribed and who's donated, which is awesome, it's just, it's nowhere near enough to cover what life costs to live. So I have to go do some work. It is what it is, as they say.
Chip, um, may I ask you if you wrote a book, considering all the information that you receive from all the guys on the ground, and I know you're connected, right? Pretty good with a good network on the ground over there. Do you think it would have an impact if you wrote a book and then had like QR codes on the pages where people could go reference the material, instead of citing it with an asterisk and then having to go to some, citation, this and that, like we were all taught in school? If they actually had a media backup where you could, they could read your book and then we could put it in all kinds of languages. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not sure that people necessarily want to look at every single reference on a QR code. I certainly don't if I read a book like that. I may want to check one or two here and there. But as far as writing a book, I don't even know what I'd write about. I could write about my overall thoughts about the political system, the monetary system. I don't even know what subject I would focus on. So I don't even know. I have a hard time consolidating my thoughts that way. I could talk about it, but again, everybody writes a book. Everybody has a podcast. It's like everyone's written their books. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's my path, but I'll think about it. But anyway, there's another guest here. Let me bring them up real quickly too. We can talk a little bit. We're gonna be watching 2 videos tonight, just for those who didn't hear. But anyway, that's gonna be the new schedule. And what I'll probably do is I'm gonna do a special live once a week. Maybe have a guest for my Patreons. So if you want to be able to see me with my guests, and you'll also get all of any videos that I create outside of here that are more long form, I'm going to start putting them up on the Patreon page, and then you have like a week ahead of time to look at them, and then I'll put them up on the YouTube after that. So that's what I'm planning to do. Unfortunately, listen, this is a tough racket when you're starting out, and I'm still new. So it takes some people years just to get to the point where they can cover their bills by doing this. I get it, but I just have to. We got to do what we got to do to survive, right? So that is what it is. So it's nothing against the community. I'm just trying to be able to survive. So that's that. Yeah, somebody made sort of a snarky comment. No one's hired me. I got my own business stuff going on. I just have to work on it more. So I'm having people rough or go to sign it. I don't know. I haven't heard that yet. The people that have tried to get out are being charged a bounty. I know that. If they were going to do a wide scale, let people go as refugees out into the Sinai, we would have heard about it by now. Is the international court doing anything about this? No. They'll make their noise. They'll shout from the hilltops, but it has no teeth. I think it's good to point out that there's, war crimes going on. That's a good thing, but it doesn't have any, there's no enforcement. That's the problem. Like I said, the real problem in all this, and this always comes back to the same thing, and then always back to the same story behind that, is the United States. If the U.S. wasn't providing political and military and financial backing for Israel, we wouldn't even be in this situation. If this would have changed a long time ago. So what has to change, unfortunately, and I'm not saying I want this to happen, I'm saying this is what would have to happen. The U.S. government has to be defeated. The current power structure has to be defeated. Not even the government. It's the powers that put the influence on the government have to be dismantled. And we'll see that happening. So, that would take a lot. So we'll see. But I don't think that it's going to change anytime soon. And that sucks for the Palestinians, right? But the biggest enemy to the Palestinian cause is not Israel, although they're horrible, because America's complicit. Let's face it, without America, this wouldn't be happening, right? So there you go. And of course, the 2-party system, somebody mentions 3 parties. Let me tell you the problem with that. If a third party became viable in this country, the leadership would get bought out, just like the 2-party system's been bought out. Listen, if somebody comes to you and says, I'll give you $20 million, you just need to do, they're going to take the $20 million. Most people don't have their principles ahead of their financial gain. That's just the way the world is, unfortunately. That may not be us, but most people I don't think have the, and they think, what's the point anyway? Am I going to fight? Or can I just take the money and just kind of let things, they're going to do what they do anyway, right? That's the attitude. See, it's a bad system. As long as you have the moneyed people giving money to people in the political system, this is the outcome that's going to happen. So we have to break, if we want to change it, we're going to have to break the ability for that money to be given. That's it. That's the bottom line. And we're going to have fair tax policy that redistributes the money that's been hoarded at the top out to the regular population. That's going to have to happen. And we're going to have to change the idea of corporate personhood. That's going to have to go away. And Citizens United is going to have to go away. And we'll have to have term limits, and maybe even change the structure of the legislative body to have more like a citizens council rather than this executive and legislative thing that, it's just been totally co-opted. And yeah, they have their battles on TV. They talk about this, but in the end, it's always about the same stuff. It's funneling money from the treasury to the rich. That's what happens over and over again. And you can try to paint it any way you want, but that's what actually ends up happening. So I got tired of listening to all the bullshit a long time ago. And somebody says Tucker. Yeah, I didn't think Tucker's interview was all that snazzy. And listen, he didn't ask a whole lot of tough questions. And why would he? He's being welcomed into the Kremlin, so you can't exactly wear out your welcome. He went over to visit with Andrew Tate and didn't ask him any questions at all. So that was very disappointing.
Was this?
Yeah, it was. Just a sec. When is the Palestinians going to take responsibility for their actions? It's always somebody else's fault. Well, Sharon, let's talk about that for a sec. That's a good question to bring up. So listen, nobody's blameless, right? In any situation in life, you can always assign blame to somebody because nobody's got their hands clean in this. The question is, what's driving it? Like, what is one's real motivations and why do people do what they do? So if you want to say, why don't they take responsibility? The question I would ask you in return is, what would you want them to do otherwise? For example, do you want people who are living under an indefinite occupation, being brutalized by another military, constantly, having your entire lives made miserable perpetually? You've tried peaceful resistance, you've tried peaceful negotiations, it's never gone anywhere for the years. Yeah, there's some corruption in the leadership. Granted, that happens in a lot of countries. It's not great. And there's a political split, a divide between the H group in Gaza and, of course, what happens in the West Bank with the PA. And that's not great. And they have the A, B, and C territorial governance versus what happens in Gaza, which is 100% H group. Yeah, they have to take responsibility for their own lives, but they're trying to figure a way out of their plight. That's the real problem. And if they weren't in a plight, they wouldn't do what they're doing. They wouldn't use horrific tactics. They would not send rockets. They would not be resisting if there was nothing to resist. And so the point I would make for Israel, if Israel wants security, it's doing everything backwards. It's further pushing its thumb into the wound on somebody. How many people do you know, yourself included, if you have a wound in your chest and somebody takes their thumb and sticks it in there, you'd be enjoying that? I wouldn't. So in terms of responsibility, I would say, Israel, grab that thumb, take it off for first one. Second thing, give somebody a chance to get up off the hospital bed, put a patch on their wound, let them get better. Give them an opportunity to be your next door neighbor in a way that's not going to create all this havoc. It's chicken and the egg. You can blame the egg for the chicken, but you have to look what happened in the beginning of this. How did this all come to be? It happened in 1948. And you can say, well, why are you going to cry about spilt milk? Just get on with it. Okay, well, imagine if the tables were turned, right? Put yourself in those shoes, in the shoes of the Palestinians. Imagine. I did a great video called "If the Script Was Flipped," right? So imagine in the case of the Balfour Declaration, it was for an Arab state. And I know there's a lot of Arab states in the region. I get it, but just imagine for the sake of a thought exercise, what if there was an Arab state that was carved out arbitrarily by virtue of a mandate that another country had over the territory after a war was resulted? And it was a bunch of Jewish residents that got pushed off of their land at the end of a gun, in some cases didn't survive. About 14 or 15,000 Jewish people got unalived as they were forcibly dispossessed of their land. I'm guessing people who were Jewish wouldn't like that. They've been through that historically as well, as we well know, horrifically. And then the more radical Jewish people decided, well, hey, I don't like this arrangement. I'm going to fight back periodically. And they go in and they do crazy stuff in someone else's land. And the people are like, that's condemnable. How dare you do that? You're a T word. And then over time, the Arab government brutalizes the Jewish people because in response, they just make their lives absolute misery. They say, for security reasons, we have to deal with these people because they're violent, right? So follow the logic. then you have a political divide. Some Jewish people in this one area don't want to get along. They have a different idea of how to deal with this problem than the others. One's more militant, one's a little more conciliatory or trying to work through it that way. What are you going to do? The same problem persists. So if you had Jewish people living in a little strip with a more militant leadership, and you had Jewish people living in the West Bank with a more conciliatory leadership, and you disagreed, well, what are you going to do? It's still the same people. There's still Jewish people living here and Jewish people living there, and Jewish people want to get out from under the thumb of this Arab dictatorship that's sticking the thumb in their wound. And Jewish people can't catch a break. They go protest. They wave their flags. They get shot by the opposing Arab snipers. They constantly get snatched up and taken into jails inside of the Arab country because they can. They have the power dynamic. They have the military. They have the weaponry. They have the soldiers. The other people have rocks. The Jewish people have rocks. Imagine that if you have somebody pointing a sniper rifle at you and the only thing you can do to fight back is throw a rock at an armored vehicle. Imagine that for a second. So what would you do if you saw no hope, no change, no good deals? The Arab government claims it gave you these great peace offerings, but none of them were worth a goddamn. And you know that, but the world seems to think otherwise because all the Arabs say out loud is, look at this great deal we gave them. They don't want peace. The Jewish people just don't want peace. I mean, imagine that for a second. So would you say then that the Jewish people have to, quote, take responsibility for their actions if they fought back? I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that to them. I'd say, I understand. Listen, I don't like the tactics. I don't like the harm that came to Arab civilians on the attack that came from this little strip where Jewish people were confined, but I understand it within the context. And I understand the frustration and the anger and the hopelessness and the indignity and the, being completely humiliated by this foreign power that can control your life indefinitely, right? I don't care if the victims are Jewish people or if the victims are Palestinian people. It's the power dynamic. So in terms of take responsibility, you can say this person hit me, so I'm going to hit them back 100 times over because I'm not going to put up with them hitting me. But who's got the power, right? Who's doing what to whom over the long haul? In what manner? To what extent? I would imagine if you said something like that on this live, you have not watched a very, very revealing documentary called Life in Occupied Palestine, because nobody who's watched that documentary ever utters what you just said. They go, holy smokes, dude. I had no clue. And that's what most people do when they learn about what happens in the West Bank. They're like, I wasn't told about this. Why is this happening? That's unbelievable, right? So there's a young Jewish woman. This isn't some Palestinian propaganda film. This is a young Jewish woman named Anna Baltzer. You can look this up on YouTube right now. I swear, this is how you have to find the video. It's suppressed in the algorithm. You have to type in Anna Baltzer, Life in Occupied Palestine. It was a young Jewish woman who went to visit Ramallah at her friend's bequest because they were telling her all these things that I'm sharing. And there's, no, you're propagandized. You've been brainwashed. And Anna couldn't believe it because she was brought up in a Zionist household and she never knew any of this stuff. And so she went to live there for 6 months. And what she learned absolutely floored her. It cut through her to her soul. And so she vowed to come back and share what she experienced with the world. She was so overwhelmed and so shocked by what she learned. And therefore, I suggest that people who ask those kind of questions, like, why don't they just take responsibility? Why is it? Go watch that. Maybe it'll give you some sense of empathy towards what people endure, because I have empathy for what Jewish people went through in World War II. I wouldn't say to the people in the Warsaw Ghetto, why can't you just take responsibility? How dare you fight? What's wrong with you? Just keep your place. Deal with it, right? No, there was an uprising because people saw they had no hope, and the best thing was to do was try, right? That's what happens in Gaza. That's it. That is it. Anna Baltzer, Baltzer, Anna Baltzer, Life in Occupied Palestine. Okay, now listen, I'm not for violence on anybody. Okay, I'd like there to be peace. But you have to give somebody respect in order to get their respect back. You can't stick them on the ground, punch them in the face, cut their ear off, spit in their face, shoot their kids, bulldoze their houses, set up checkpoints everywhere so they can't move their lives, and so many more things, and go, well, why can't you just be nice back? Take responsibility. What's wrong with you? Right? So in my opinion, that's a bullshit question. Okay? So my suggestion is this, and again, you may still see it the way you see it now, but at least go inform yourself of that's a resource to learn some more. If you don't know what really happened back in 1948 and what Israeli soldiers said about what they did, watch Tan Torah. It talks about what Israeli soldiers talk about their experiences of how they dealt with dismantling an Arab village during the whole 1948 Nakba. Go listen to them in their own words. And if you're not disgusted by that, if you didn't think that Jewish Israeli people, Zionists, could speak that way, you're going to be floored. Like, oh my God, these guys are disgusting. Talk about graping and shooting and burning and all these other, the same stuff that the age group's been accused of in the attacks of 10/7. And I don't know exactly. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of all that. I'm still trying my like heck to get data. I just can't get it. I'm not denying what happened on the 7th in terms of the attacks. I'm just saying in terms of some of the more egregious allegations about things that may have taken place, all those things that are the worst of the worst atrocities. I've tried like hell to get the evidence of that. Somebody says, I've seen it. Do you mean Tantora, or do you mean the evidence for what we saw there? Yeah, another great book to read, if you haven't read it yet, it's called The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. And again, what I find in most cases when people say things like, why can't they take responsibility for themselves? What's wrong with these people? Why are they so violent? They don't know the context. And I think if you're an honest, objective, compassionate, caring human being, and you can look at facts, forget about the parties for a second, just look at the facts of what the experiences are of somebody or the other, you'll see it totally differently. And if you see all that evidence and you still don't care, I don't even know what to say to you. And that's even worse, right? All right, so we could talk about this all night, obviously. People get very mad at me for saying these things. They think that I'm being insensitive to Israel, that I have something against Jewish people, or I hate, love people who perform tea-type activities, or graping of women, or whatever that. It's all silliness. Just trying to objectively analyze something doesn't mean you have favoritism towards one side or the other. I try to do as best a job I can and not take sides. People think I'm totally one-sided on this. I'm not, because I did the video, what if the script was flipped? Right? What if the script was flipped? I would be very, very critical of the Arab government doing this to Jewish people who they dispossessed of their land from the beginning, as I should be. And while I wouldn't be happy about the tactics used to fight back, because I don't want to see Arabs, civilians, women, children, whomever get hurt or harmed, or men or whomever, I would understand it, because they're so frustrated and they have no light at the end of the tunnel. What are you going to do, sit back and just take it indefinitely? I wouldn't. No human being does that, right? That's not normal. Okay, we have some guests that are here. I think Joe was here earlier. Let me let Joe chime in. We may not get to the videos. By the way, if you don't come through, if you're trying to come through and you time out, which Joe is doing, sometimes you have to. Oh, there you are, Joe. I can see you.
Yeah, how are you?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got the phone call and I got distracted. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So I heard your point before about, what's happening if it's flipped, and how everybody would react.
Yeah.
And I think we are taking this a whole, I have a different point of view, because I see it. I'm Arab. I'm Egyptian myself, so I've lived all my life with this conflict. I didn't live all my life in Egypt, but I know exactly what these people are going through, because I have Palestinian friends, and my partners were Palestinian too. So I'm thinking that we're looking at Israel as America is supporting Israel. I think Israel is made to be a military base for the U.S. to control this area. It's not like it's not the opposite. We created this over there just to be in the middle of everything. We are a heartbeat to conquer any country that has resources. We're a heartbeat from Russia. We're a heartbeat from everything. We control the Red Sea, the Gulf, the Mediterranean. We have peace. We have all our military bases surrounding this. So I think all this this talk about Israel is supported by America. It's America actually wanted Israel. It's actually because let me tell you this. If I have two kids and I create, they are my kids, right? And they are fighting. Like let's assume it's Israel and Hamas, right? Right now they are fighting, right? I am the parent. I'm supposed to sit them down and make a peace between them. I don't encourage one on top of the other. You understand? So that's what's happening. America control everything. Henry Kissinger said that we can create any problem anywhere in the world, but we hold each end of the problem. We can end it one way or the other, based on our interests. So it is very hard for anything to change unless the American policies changes about how they view the Middle East and how
I
they
agree with that.
view how they conquer the whole idea about Russia is the greatest enemy, and we have to defend all these countries, and we are the freedom fighter and all this. The other thing, I'll tell you the truth. I mean, Hamas is created to.
Just to let you know, we have to do silly things like say the H group. We can't be using terms like T. We have to say everything in abbreviated terms. It's a silly TikTok thing.
The H group, all right, was created not only by Israel but by everybody around these countries. It got help from Qatar, it got help from Jordan, it got help from everybody. So nobody wants to fight Israel directly, just by proxy. Iran felt like, you know what, I keep them busy with these people, it's better than I fight them myself. If I keep them busy with southern Lebanon, I will. What do you think all these extremists coming from? It's coming from the oppression that you were talking about. Somebody is pushing your buttons. But it's not that only. It's because we are looking at this as it's in our benefit to keep this area destabilized like that. We want to keep it this way because we can jump in and become the savior, like we did in Iraq, we did in Kuwait, we did this. We can do that because we are there. We are a heartbeat from everywhere. You understand? And that's the problem. As long as we have our hands in everywhere, we will never get peace. We will always have this. Now let's talk about what happened in October 7th. What happened woke up the whole world. Imagine if they didn't do it. You understand? Imagine if there is nothing happen. Would it be another 10, 20, 15, 20 years, another 20 years until something happened and people talk about it? You understand? 75 years passed by and nothing happened. Now everybody talk about it, and maybe something will happen this time. You understand? But saying is it right or wrong? I'm not saying it's right to do anything to a civilian. But what I'm saying is, unless we are, as you said, in these people's shoes, we cannot dictate to them what to do, what not to do. But H group, like Israel, like everybody sponsored by people that they want to keep everybody busy with war and power and greed and politics and influence and over resources and everything else. That's all I have.
Okay, Joe. Thanks for being here. I appreciate that. Yeah, the U.S. has its tentacles in a lot of places. Let's face it, the U.S. has a whole playbook. The CIA and the State Department have a little game for every single place on earth. They try to get in and do what they can and get friendly relationships with leaders or pressure people or put them in debt or all the above or whatever they can do to control stuff, control resources, control military outposts, blah, 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 blah. And it happened in Ukraine. And he talked about proxy wars. Yeah, as many times as you can fight without having to put your own soldiers on the ground, because politically that's no fun. You don't want to hear people's fathers and mothers complaining about people coming back in boxes. You do it. So Iran does it. The U.S. does it. Other countries do it where they can. It's just the way the world works as far as if you can use a proxy, why wouldn't you? All you have to do is give them money and weapons. So anyway, I just want to let you know, I have the two videos queued up. I just want to do a little quick public poll to the audience because I don't want to. We have two more guests, which we'll talk to briefly. But I'll just tell everybody in the audience, if you don't know, I talked about two videos I wanted to talk about. We don't have to do it tonight. So there's two subjects. One shows you the vast size of the universe. It's one of the best videos I've ever watched. It's mind blowing. And then the second video talks about the impact if an electromagnetic pulse weapon were to be used on the United States, or I guess other countries, or if it was a solar thing, that if it was done naturally by the sun, what the impact would be on society. So I want to do a favor. Okay, I want to real quick. Don't type anything in yet. I'm going to give you three choices. So if you only want to watch the universe video, don't do it now. You're going to do 1. If you want to watch only the one on EMP, you're going to type 2. And if you want to watch both, you're going to type 3. So 1 is only the universe, 2 is EMP only, 3 is both. Please start typing some numbers in so I can see what people want to do. I know there's a way to do polls on here, but I don't know how to do it, obviously.
Hi, how you doing, Chip? How are you?
Hold on a sec. I got to pay attention to this poll. Okay, so we got mostly 2 and 3s, mostly 3s. Okay, yeah, and they're not very long videos, so that's cool. Okay, let's. We got to let Ala Bakers come in real quick, Free Policy, because he was first, and then we'll bring you up, and then we'll do the videos.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Chip. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for what you are doing and what you did. I really appreciate you. I just have a specific piece of information I'd like to share with everyone. Since in these days in the USA, we are voting on the HR 813, and that is $14.1 billion going as aid for Israel. And the senator voted yes before yesterday, and I think it's in the House now. Now, we are sending money for Israel, but yet Israel has like better health insurance, education, and I'm talking on the health insurance part this night. Based on my background, I used to be working in the Middle East like 15 years ago, and they have something, they do it IVF cycle. IVF cycle is in vitro fertilization. It's a process, complex process for couple that want to bring babies. They're infertile, so they take medication and certain tests and procedure that cost money. Back in the days, like 15 years ago, it used to cost $10,000. Nowadays, I Google it, it's around like $15,000, the minimum cost for it. And what they were doing, that they do a lot of encouragement for bringing babies in the Israel. And one day I was sitting with the director of a hormonal product, and I noticed that there are a lot of studies done in Israel. So I asked him why Israel always in these studies, the IVF cycle and the infertility studies. So he explained that the Israeli government at that days give each couple would like to do bring babies, and they have issue with that, up to 3 IVF cycle. Imagine, it's $45,000, 3 IVF cycle, which worth $30,000 before 15 years. Nowadays, I Googled the cost is around 15,000 per IVF cycle, and they still do 2 IVF free cycle for any couple. And we sending like $14.1 billion, and we don't have like free health insurance. So really, I feel bad for us as American. We don't have that privilege, yet we send all that money for a foreign country. So this is the piece of information. I know you have tight schedule tonight. Oh, nice cat.
What did you want to ask a question, or do you just want to share that information?
Just sharing this piece of information. That's it, Chip. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, a lot of people talk about those kind of things, like all sorts of things in Israel they have that we don't have here, and we're giving them so much money every year, and yet we don't have these things for our own citizens. And the question really comes down to, why do we pay another country so that they can have all these great lifestyle improvements, and we don't even give them to our own civilians, our own citizens? Seems kind of crazy, right? And the question is, what motivates that? It's one thing to give somebody a few weapons, but it's a whole other thing to give them all this extra money so they can subsidize their systems that are in place to help their population. What in the hell is driving that? And that's something we should talk about sometime in earnest, right? I mean, a lot of things are hard to talk about because people think that if you're talking about it, you're coming from a place of bad motivation and you're doing like tropes or conspiracies or whatever the hell it is. But it's a fair question to ask. Why in the hell is it that so much money is allocated from the United States, which goes on our credit card, that goes to foreign countries, especially Israel, for them? Why the hell are we giving them money that we so desperately need here? It's a fair question to ask, right? And if you look into the influences on our government, that may give you a clue as to what's going on. And if you look into that, you're considered anti-Semitic. Oh, that's just conspiratorial. Or are you Alex Jones, or are you one of these crazy people who's anti? No, you're not being anti-Semitic. You're looking at facts, numbers, reality, right? And I hate the fact that people get pigeonholed into these corners. There's certain things you can't talk about. Race is one of them. You can't make any observations that might even be factual because it's just too incendiary. And you can't talk about this issue, which is the potential influence of why some of these policies exist and what the influences are that create that environment, right? And I think that should not be off limits to talk about. I don't think anything should be off limits to talk about, as long as it's not done in a mean-spirited way, right? You don't want to say horrible things about people for no reason. But you want to be able to dig a little deeper, right? And for some reason, like even on TikTok, if we were to start talking about that this live would get taken down on either of those issues, which is really sad. But you're told that you're spreading misinformation if you say that. Again, I've done the math before. We talk about the world population of 8 billion, and we talk about a subset of a very small group of people that only make up 17 million, and having all that power and influence versus the fractional population. It seems like it's worthy of discussion in my book. All right, so we have Free Palestine wanted to come on, and then we're going to watch the videos.
Yes, hi Don, Chip. How are you? I've been watching you for a long time. Thank you so much for being in the right side of history. As a Palestinian, we are not going to forget any voice up there that helped Palestinians to fight for our freedom. I came from Palestine, West Bank, in a small village called Silwed, near to Ramallah. So I would like to express a little bit of my experience by Palestinian who lived under occupation since I was born in Palestine. I'm right now 38 years old. When I moved to United States, I was 16 years old, and I've been going back and forth to Palestine ever since. So what I'm trying to say is I would like to speak about the depression and that the Palestinian in West Bank have. I wanted to focus a little bit on it. Probably there's a lot of people all around the world. Do you look at Palestinians as in West Bank or Gaza? They have a freedom of movement, freedom of speak, or freedom as we do in United
Can you
States.
hold on one second? Can you hold on 1 second? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, Ginger. No, Al Quds. No, I'm sorry. Wyoming Eagle 2023 made a statement in the comments. I don't know if this is true or not. It says this is not a Muslim. I'm assuming he's referring to you, not me. I'm not a Muslim. Are you a Muslim?
I am a Muslim, yes.
Okay, there you go, Wyoming Eagle. So I don't know where you made that presumption, but there you go. Okay, please continue.
Yes. So when I was 16 years old, we were defended our village from Israeli Zionists because next to our village there was created
Oh, did you get
attack in
muted?
our village. So we tried to
I think we're losing you there a little bit. By the way, if anybody in the comments is saying prove it or recite something, come on, people. That's not being. Let's be decent to our guests, for God's sakes. Let's not question their religion or their veracity. I mean, come on. If they give us some reason to indicate that through some sort of in their behavior, then we can do that. But come on, don't be an asshole. I think we lost your connection for a second there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm back again. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. So when I was 16 years old, I remember that there was attack from the Israeli Zionists to our village who were trying to defend it, and that day I got shot in my hand for doing that, and my one of my friend got shot in his back. So that was one of my experience. What I'm trying to say is, and then after that, I moved to United States, but I've been going back and forth. So in my village, ever since the 1948 until last week, it was more than 140 people from that village was unalived. And last week, there is one is 19 years old has been unalived just because he was walking back from the school and then he gets shot. There is a checkpoint nailed to our village. He had to cross it. So after he crossed it, they shot him and unalived him. That was literally last week. So the depression that the Palestinian has in West Bank is completely unbelievable. So I am 38 years old and I have a United States of citizenship, and I never, every time I go to Palestine, I never get a chance to go into Jerusalem or to Tel Aviv, Haifa, Akka, Yafa, where I am from, just because I'm Palestinians. And even if I have the American citizenship, it doesn't really matter. As they look at me as Palestinian, you're not allowed. Only the people who are allowed to go to Jerusalem to cross from West Bank to Jerusalem, when you be at 62 years old, then you can be having, it's like a document you apply for, you can get approved, and then you go to visit Al-Aqsa Mosque, to Jerusalem or to Tel Aviv or something like that. And then as an American citizen as well, because I'm Palestinian as well, I cannot go to a Ben Gurion airport. So, so there is a lot of information people need to know, understand about Israel, how they treated Palestinians. They're not looking at us as human beings. They're looking at us as something that's extra in what they call an Israel border inside living there. But there is even a lot of story and a lot of things that I can keep speaking all day long. I will not even finish. And there is even lands next to our village belong to our family. My village is more than 2,000 years old. We literally have proof for that. So Hamid and Hamad, the two brothers, 2,000 years ago, they created the whole village. And those village right now, this village is more than 65,000 outside and inside, all of it. So we, as a Palestinian, nobody can come in 1948 or 38 or 20 and says this Israel is belong to a Jewish person or Zionist or whatever, and this is my country and this is my land, and they claim it when my family goes back more than 2,000 years old. You see what I'm saying? So we're not against, honestly, that people
We lost
and
you again.
occupy our country at region as like.
We're losing you a little bit there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm again. Yeah. So I was trying to really. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Yeah. So I was trying to. I'm sorry. I'm again.
Hey, we got a bad connection. Let's do this. If you need to connect back in, I'm sorry that your experience not being able to go back to where you're from just because of your heritage. That's apartheid. I'm sorry. There's no way to say that. And they say it's for security reasons. Come on. You can pat somebody down or make sure they don't have anything on them or whatever, and you can, I don't know what the hell it is that you can. The bottom line is most people aren't violent. Let's face it, right? And including everybody who's of Palestinian descent to places where they're from, or where they grew up, where they have family, is just absolutely insane. But some people will say, "Well, you don't understand. You don't live there. You've never been through all this." Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. But at the same time, it's rotten, right? And it's unfair. And I think Israel has a lot to, I don't know, to fix. in terms of how it chooses to do stuff. It always does stuff that's in its own favor at the expense of others, including getting money from my country, which I think is, pretty crummy. So, so here's what I'm going to do. We have some guests in the queue. I want to show this one video of the universe. I think it's pretty amazing. I know people have been wanting to see it, so we're going to do that real quick. I want to make sure you can hear it okay. I have a neighbor who freaks out if my volume is up even a little bit, so I want to try to keep it as low as I can without being inconsiderate, but sometimes it's hard to hear. So I'm going to keep an eye on the comments. Just please tell me if you can't hear it well enough, and I'll try to turn it up so she doesn't, bang on the wall, which she tends to do, unfortunately. Okay, so this video is about the scale and size of the universe, and it's one of my favorite videos I ever watched. I think you're going to like it a lot. So let me get the cat off of here. Let me set this up, because I got to set up a little thing so I can show it to you without... Okay, let me bring the video down here. And make sure I can get this in frame. I'm going to turn the camera around. I can still see the comments, but flip the camera. Okay, so there's my computer. Come back here a little bit. That should do that. Let me see if I can get that to work like that. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Moon is located right here, but just how small exactly? This is Earth. You live here on this planet somewhere, and everything that you've ever known is located right here. But just how small exactly is Earth when compared to the scale of the entire universe? Let's start by zooming out to where we can see our nearest cosmic neighbor, the Moon. You may think that the Moon is very close to Earth since it dominates our night skies, but in reality the Moon isn't this close to our planet, it's actually about this far away, 384,400 kilometers away from you right now on average. You could fit 30 entire Earths in between this distance, and if you somehow were able to drive a car at a constant 100 kilometers per hour speed, it would take you about 160 days to drive the entire distance. Despite this incredible distance, however, 12 humans have actually set foot here, representing the furthest away that any individual human has ever been away from the Earth, and one of humanity's greatest achievements. This is what the Earth would look like from there if you were standing there with them, and if you wanted to communicate with somebody back at home, it would take a message about 2.5 seconds to travel between you and them, since that's how fast the speed of light can travel at. This is a photo that was taken on Mars, and that tiny dot that you see there is Earth as seen from the Martian surface. On average, Mars is an incredible 225 million kilometers away from Earth, but that distance can be as high as 401 million kilometers. That means that whenever humanity finally gets around to landing a human on the planet, that person will be 986 times further away from Earth than the astronauts who landed on the Moon were. In addition, the time delay for sending a message from Mars back to Earth isn't just 2.5 seconds, it's actually more like 20 minutes each direction, which would render instant communication in the event of an emergency impossible. When we zoom out even further away, we can find the Voyager 1 space probe, which is the furthest away man-made object from Earth. It is currently located 138 AUs from the Earth, AU meaning astronomical unit, which is the distance between the Earth and the Sun, which means that Voyager 1 is 138 times further away from us than the Sun is. At some point on its long voyage, Voyager 1 turned its camera around and took this photograph. It may not look like much at first, but in my opinion, this is the greatest single photograph ever taken in all of human history. This tiny, pale blue dot is Earth, and I don't think that anybody has ever said something as amazing about this as Carl Sagan when he said, "If you look at it, you see a dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever lived out their lives. The aggregate of all our joys and sufferings, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and every forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilizations, every king and every peasant, every young couple in love, every hopeful child, every mother and every father, every inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. Voyager 1 is currently traveling at 17 kilometers every single second, but even at that speed, it won't break out of the reach of our solar system for another 30,000 years. Once we go beyond the solar system, we arrive in our interstellar neighborhood. Here we shift to the light year unit of measurement, which is the distance that light travels in a full Earth year, or about 9.461 trillion kilometers. The star Proxima Centauri here is the closest other star to us other than our Sun, but it's still 4.24 light years away from us. To put that into perspective, if it was heading in the right direction, it would still take Voyager 1 over 70,000 years to reach it. In other words, if you drove your car at 100 kilometers an hour like in our previous example to the moon, it would take over 6 times longer than the entire age of the universe is just to finally get there, and it wouldn't even exist still when you arrived. When we zoom out even further, we can see the entire Milky Way galaxy, inside of which Earth is located right here. This yellow dot is the furthest extent of humanity's radio broadcasts throughout history, which means that any possible aliens who live outside of this range are totally unaware of humanity's presence. It's complete silence outside of this yellow dot as far as we are currently aware, but the entire galaxy spans over 100,000 light years from end to end. There are over 100 billion stars and over 100 billion planets inside of our galaxy. But you have never seen the full glory of the galaxy at night, because 99% of the stars that you can see are limited to this small, tiny region right here. But even this massive galaxy is nothing compared to the rest of what's out there. Zooming out even further and we arrive at the local group of galaxies, a collection of 54 different galaxies that is about 10 million light years across. But zooming out even further and we can see the Virgo supercluster, of which the local group here is just a tiny segment of. There are at least 100 other groups of galaxies just like our own local group inside of here, and the distance from one side to the other is a mind-numbing 110 million light years. But even the massive Virgo supercluster is nothing but a quiet and tiny lobe of the Great Laniakea supercluster, an enormous structure that is home to our galaxy as well as 100,000 other galaxies. The distance from one side to the other is 520 million light years, but from even there we can zoom out all the way to the entire observable universe and see that even the titanic Laniakea supercluster is just a tiny and insignificant part of everything. This is the observable universe, and it contains everything that we know of. It is home to at least 2 trillion different and individual galaxies, which together contain more stars than there are grains of sand on the entire Earth. The distance from Earth to any side of the observable universe is 46.5 billion light years, which means that the entire width is 93 billion light years across. What's perhaps even more interesting, however, is what actually lies beyond the observable universe. Keep in mind that the observable universe is all that we can currently see, and it's entirely possible that the rest of the universe outside of it is vastly larger and more fantastic than we can possibly ever imagine. We simply don't know what else is out there because the light from these incredibly distant places has not yet had enough time in the universe's history to reach us yet back on Earth. And the light from some places may never reach us at all. Because some parts of space very far away from Earth are expanding away from us faster than the speed of light, that means that the light from these places will never, in an infinite amount of time, reach Earth. Meaning that even if humanity is eternal and exists forever, there will still be an unknown number of places in the universe that we will never know about or ever see. So, it is very likely that as unbelievably enormous as it seems, the observable universe is just a tiny slice of what we can currently see of the entire universe. According to the theory of cosmic inflation that was proposed by Dr. Alan Guth, if it is assumed that cosmic inflation began at 10 to the negative 37th of a second after the Big Bang, and with the assumption that the size of the universe before inflation began was equal to its age times the speed of light, then this would seem to suggest that at the present day, the entire universe is 150 sextillion times larger than the observable universe. That number for reference looks like this, with this many zeros. Let this number sink in for just a moment. This would be similar to you thinking that the entire observable universe, everything that you could see, was the size of a light bulb, but then realizing that in reality the entire universe is larger than the former planet of Pluto. Imagine a light bulb in the center of Pluto, but we inside the light bulb were totally unaware that Pluto existed outside of it, and that's a similar situation to this. We are all so unbelievably small, but you shouldn't worry, because all that means is that there is so much left out there for us to discover together.
Wow. Interesting, huh? Damn. That is by far one of my most favorite videos. I think it's absolutely incredible just how big the place is, right? Wow. Yeah, it's it's unthinkable. And the fact that light from distant places will never even reach us because it's that far away and it takes that long to get here. That's amazing, right? And does it have any limits? That's the other question. And there may be no limits. It may just go on and on, it just never stops. And we can't relate to that, right? Because nothing in our lives are infinity. So yeah, it's a mind scratcher, right? Can I post on this video? Yeah, I could do something about that. Sure. I got to be careful about copyright, though. Let me give you the name of that the channel, though, because this guy's amazing. He has by the way, this is one of his videos he does about this, but it's called Real Life Lore. I strongly suggest that you go to this channel. It's unbelievable. Here it is, right? Let me put the camera around. So this is what it's called, right? So the reason why I love it so much, see, look at some of these videos. So he's got videos about different geopolitical subjects, and they're really well made. I mean, they're incredibly well made. So if you want to check him out, he just has some really cool videos. I think this guy's amazing. In fact, I could make a living just off of talking about his videos. I could, dig through them. Oh, sorry, let me turn the camera around. There we go. Yeah, the name, it's called, yeah, sorry about that. I'll tell you the name. It's called Real Life Lore, like Lore, Real Life Lore, Real Life Lore. Yeah, that just blows my mind. I don't know about the rest of you, but and I only wanted to play that because I think it's just such an impactful video. It just shows you, like, literally how, like he says, how insignificant we are in the big scheme of things, right? And here we are fighting, right? Like, why can't we just appreciate this amazing place we have and get along, right? It's crazy. Anyway, all right, Brenda's here. See what Brenda has to say about that mind bender. Maybe she's already seen it before. You there, Brenda? Yeah, Fafa, it's called Real Life Lore. REAL, Real Life Lore, LORE.
Hi, Chip. How are you?
Okay, thanks.
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. That was a cool video. There's another really cool one that you should check out that they do like a side-by-side comparison of us like next to the sun and then our sun next to
Yeah,
all the
I've
other
seen
suns.
those.
Yeah, those are really cool too, and it really puts a lot of things in perspective. And so I did one thing that I wanted to sort of share this idea out to everyone because I'm of the millennial generation, and my generation was marked by 9/11. I was in high school when that happened, and pretty much everything has changed. I think every generation has been marked by like a very specific event. But I think my generation in particular, there have been these events that have just kind of started the squeezing of society to sort of like our breaking point, but not quite as much as what's happening now with the economy, with the way things are unveiling with our governments, with what's happening now in the Middle East. And
Yep.
I think one thing that we need to keep in mind is that there is no going back to normal. And that anybody who is just wanting all of this to end just so they can go back to, our consumerist lives, our comfortable lives, I think that is where they got us. They got us so comfortable. They provide us just enough comfort to keep us quiet. But I think what's happening is that those comforts are they were quietly drifting away, but I think now it's become very loud, especially with, TikTok kind of coming on the mainstream, and more normal people, everyday people are able to share their struggles. And a lot of us are starting to see that we have very similar struggles, so that it's not just us, because what the media and what like our government are making us think, it's like, if you are struggling, it's because you're not working hard enough, right? Because I know, I don't know if it's like, it's from your generation, and I know my parents' generation, it's like, you just gotta pull yourself up by your bootstraps and, you'll be okay. But that's no longer working for our generations. And so I think what's happening is that, I think we need to realize as a society that we need to drift away from the idea of we're just going to go back to normal. We just want this to end. I think we need to have a little bit more radical change. What these radical changes are, I mean, I don't have all the answers to that, because I'm also grappling with that myself. I have a toddler, and that is just terrifying to me, just what this next generation, like what the next generation is going to be dealing with. But I do know that one of the main things that we need to deconstruct, and I know you've talked about this a lot, that we need to deconstruct the fact that voting and our politicians are the answer. And I think we need to spend a little bit more time realizing that it's about money, right? We're all realizing that all of our politicians are bought, all of them, right? And that's just not in the US, that's everywhere. I'm in Brazil, and it's the same thing. Every government is the same. So just to kind of like put that seed in the mind of everybody that there are a lot of things, like, what made me think about that video you were showing about the universe. I was thinking about how disclosure is so close, and a lot of people are saying that it's a distraction or not. And there's a lot of legitimate sources that have talked about how, there's been a lot of activity in and around nuclear sites, because the reason that we're not able to really travel into outer space, and this is what some of the UFO like specialists say, is that the reason that we're not able to really travel intergalactically, even though our universe is so big, is because we're not allowed to, because we're not a peaceful society. And that is one of the main roles of other intergalactic species that are on our planet, because I think, come on, we can all agree that we are not the most advanced species. We are not, the only people, the only beings in the universe, and they're here. They're on our planet, and there are some theories about some of them controlling our government. I don't know how much of that I believe, but I do know that more and more what's happening is prompting me to keep an open mind, and that a lot of things do make sense. But they do talk. You should look into that. They do talk about, there are a lot of like unusual things that have happened with UFOs around nuclear sites, and that they say that like ETs are very concerned with our use of nuclear weapons, and then that's why we're not allowed to really travel. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, there's just a lot of things that I think we need to just deconstruct and sort of step out of our comfort zone, because that's what's keeping us dumb. That's what's keeping us blind, and it's what's just stepping outside of that is what we need to really be able to just change the world, because I think we are entering into a new phase. With the coming of the age of Aquarius, and I'm very much like in the spiritual realm. I believe in all these things, and I do study a lot about these things. So there's a lot of things converging all at once, and so I just urge everybody to just keep an open mind and deconstruct, unlearn, and relearn, and just keep an open mind to everything.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you very much. Thanks for being on. Appreciate you as always. Yeah, I don't know about the alien thing. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. It does make sense. I mean, how far-fetched is it that we're the only life here? I mean, there's got to be other life, it seems like, right? Makes sense. And a lot of people are now saying that it's been here for a long time before we were here. I mean, just the whole thing's kind of mind-boggling. But supposedly there are these propulsion systems that different things landed or crashed, and that our government has been reverse engineering or testing. And there's been beings that have come down in various forms, and they've done testing on. I don't even know. You know, it always made me sad whenever whenever humans see something different, they get afraid, and their first reaction is to want to kill. It's like, wait a second, just why not give someone or something a chance to just be before you want to fear them? I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Jay, we just played a video about the universe, which is pretty cool. If you haven't seen it, if you just type into Google, or you go to YouTube and type in like how large is the universe, you'll find it. It's a video it's by a guy that has it's a channel called Real Life Lore, REAL, Real Life Lore. Check it out. It's got a lot of other great videos. That's the other thing I want to talk about. We could have a segment just on that one night if you all wanted to. We could just have some people come on who are knowledgeable about that. I'm not that knowledgeable about it, but I'm interested in it to find out more. It's a pretty important subject, right? And especially, I don't know, something. I was talking with Sheila, one of the viewers today, one of our followers here. Very nice woman, by the way. And we were talking about that. We're like, something just doesn't feel quite right. Like something's going to happen soon. I don't know exactly what that's all about, but I just get this feeling like we're about to go into this. And Brenda talked about the fact that we're not going back to the way things were in, 2016 or 17. No, I don't. I agree with that 100%. And the next chapter we may be entering into could be pretty dystopian, depending upon what happens. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have some sort of crystal ball like anybody else, but I just get a feeling that I don't know if it's going to be a war. I don't know if it's going to be an alien thing. I don't know if it's going to be a financial reset or some sort of financial cataclysm. It just feels like something big's about to happen. And I don't know exactly when. My guess is it's sometime later this summer is my guess. But who knows? My spidey sense is just tingling. It's usually right, but we'll see. Somebody says Lebanon seems to be next. Yeah, it could be. I mean, depends on Israel's, how far they want to take their aims. I think they have their hands full right now in Gaza. And I think that getting Lebanon involved in the war would bring in the United States, which is what I think Israel wants. But I think everyone's trying to resist that, obviously, because the consequences for getting Lebanon involved with Iran backing them, it could be, a global war, which I don't think anybody wants. But maybe it's coming. No, I'm not related to Charles Barnes. I don't know who Charles Barnes is. By the way, there's a lot of, if you type my name into Google, there's like 18 different Chip Barneses around the country. I guess it's when you have 340 million people, or whatever it is, 335. There's going to be people with your name, but it's so funny when you find other people with your name out there. And there are a lot of people with the same name, obviously. Like imagine Sean Smith or something like that, or Joe Smith or whatever. That's got to be like 150,000 Joe Smiths. It's pretty funny. I do want to just repeat, I'm changing the schedule for the lives for those who didn't hear earlier. So I was doing 6 days a week. I'm going to move to doing 2 days a week starting tomorrow. So I normally would do Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 to 10 p.m. and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday from 12 noon to 2 p.m. But I'm shifting to Wednesday night only and then Saturday afternoon only for right now, and see how that goes for a while. I may do some impromptu ones here and there. I just have to start doing some other work because I've just been, I'm behind on my finances, so I can get my finances up. So that's what it's going to be. In fact, I'm probably going to close a little early tonight because we have like 97 people here. I appreciate everybody being here. But what we'll do is we'll hold off on that video, the one that has the EMP, electromagnetic pulse. We'll do that on Saturday. We'll show that video and then talk about that. As always, if you want to follow me, this tonight's recording, if you didn't catch the video, if you want to watch it, you can either watch it on YouTube or you can catch the replay of this. It'll be uploaded to the YouTube channel and my Rumble channel within an hour or so. So go check that out. You can access that. There's a Linktree link in my bio on my main page where my videos are. It just says Linktree Chip Barnes. If you're in the US, it's clickable.
If you're outside the US, I put the same text in the bottom of my bio that you just need to type it into a web browser, hit enter, it'll take you to the same spot. But it's got all my social media, Instagram and of course YouTube and Rumble. It also has some Telegram groups, which is a free messaging app with a bunch of groups that we've set up, which are cool. And it's towards the bottom. If you want to help out my cause, I'd love it. I'm not raking in the dough. I have a $5 a month Patreon, which is pretty low key. If you want to help out with that, that'd be great. So I want to say thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm going to close in a little early tonight. Thank you for the guests and have a great night. I will see you on Saturday. Take care, everybody.